Thank you. Hello and welcome to Manchester and to the home of the cooperative movement. And of course, I'm so proud to call this city my home as well, and to see so many of you here today. Over the last few weeks, I've been on my battle bus, hearing the country crying out for change. Change after 14 years of chaos. We just cannot afford 5 more years of high tax, low growth and broken Tory promises. Crime going unpunished, soaring NHS waiting lists, and people saving every penny for a home that's now out of reach. Every day of this campaign, I have met people with hope for our future. Hope that things can get better for the next generation, despite the years of Tory failure. We know that a Labour government would inherit a high-tax, low-growth economy. And the only way to change that is through the foundation of economic stability upon which everything else will be built. The Tories have shown you can't tax our way to growth. Our plan for growth means investment and reform. We will get Britain building by reintroducing housing targets and reforming the planning system. And we will finally make work pay with a new deal for working people, boosting wages and security at work. We will switch on Great British Energy to provide clean, secure energy, cutting bills and creating good jobs. And we will launch a new border security command to smash the smuggling gangs. And we'll crack down on anti-social behaviour with more neighbourhood police. And we will get our NHS back on its feet by cutting the backlog, by clamping down on tax loopholes. And we'll recruit 6,500 extra qualified teachers and provide free school breakfasts by ending tax breaks for private schools. And when we deliver growth, it will be in every corner of the country. Kier and I know the power of Labour in government. It gave us the opportunity to succeed. And if you place your trust in us, we are committed to never taking that power for granted. We have changed the Labour Party. And with this manifesto, we can change Britain. Change worth having and change worth voting for. We know the task ahead is daunting. Just 3 times in our party's history have we won power from opposition. The manifestos in 1945, 1964 and 1997 answered the questions. What future do you want to see? And what country do you want to build? Today we publish our plan for the change we need to meet the challenges ahead. Our chance to end the chaos, to turn the page and to start a new chapter. What we now ask is the chance to make that change a reality, for the opportunity to serve you. So now I'd like to hand over to Iceland's CEO, who shares my passion to change Britain, Richard Walker.
Good morning. I'm Richard Walker, Executive Chairman of Iceland Supermarkets. And as someone whose family business started its growth here in the Northwest, it's a pleasure to be in Manchester to welcome the launch of Labour's manifesto. Now, I come from a pretty plain-speaking family. My dad's reaction when I set off this morning was, "Tell them it had better be a good one." Well, it certainly needs to be, doesn't it? And I'm happy to say that it really is. We've all lived through 14 years of Tory chaos and underachievement. Years of endless infighting and broken promises, lacking the ability or even the ambition to turn things around. The Tories are out of ideas. Only Labour can change this country's trajectory of dismal economic performance. In business, I like to see a plan. The country needs a clear and credible plan too. And I really like what I see in Labour's plan to ensure that we invest in the people and the infrastructure that we need to put our country on the road to recovery. To run what Rachel Reeves has called the most pro-growth, pro-business treasury our country has ever seen. Prioritising economic growth, which has to be the driver of everything we all want to achieve while maintaining sound finances. Pursuing a clear industrial strategy and reforming the planning system, which has been the biggest drag on this country's performance for years. A change that has the potential to genuinely turbocharge our prospects. Now, I spend 7 days a week listening to customers and colleagues on the front line in towns and cities across Britain. And I can tell you, they have been hurting. They ache for change. If it is lucky enough to win the trust of the British people, Labour will repay that trust by turning our economy to growth, by repairing our damaged environment, by investing in green energy and the infrastructure for our future, by ripping out crime at its roots and creating streets that are safe for our communities, by making education and skills the motor of change, by ensuring our health and social care services help everyone live life to the full, whatever it throws at them, while ensuring that people can get to work and get our economic growth that we all need to see. As we turn our backs on the grim years of Conservative mismanagement, it gives me real hope that this can be the start of a better future for all of us. Thank you. And now I'd like to hand over to Daniel, who's going to tell us his story about why we need a Labour government.
Hi everyone, my name's Daniel and I live in East London. I'm here today to give you an insight of what it's like living in my current living situation. Together with my partner, we have 2 children. A boy is 13, going on 30, and a beautiful 7-year-old girl. We live together in a 1-bed flat, which is pretty much a bedsit. To say we find it difficult is an understatement. Without discussing the multiple health conditions that we all suffer, just the relationships, us as parents, husband and wife, brother and sister, all severely strained because we're all pretty much living on top of each other. You know, we have no space for ourselves, no space to think, and particularly for my children, it's a really big struggle. At school, my kids try to concentrate, but how can they? They haven't even got their own space. They can't get a good night's sleep. Having their own rooms is pretty much a pipe dream for us at the moment. And they don't even get to have their own beds. To add to those difficulties, the cost of living crisis is making everything worse. For all the bills going up, our food bill has doubled, the rent increase is ridiculous and overwhelming. I'm someone who I feel I've done all the right things. I've graduated from university, I have a good job, I try to be a good example for my children and hopefully build a future for them. Right now, the idea of buying our own home is just nowhere on the horizon. Social rent, as I said, has risen. Private renting is pretty much the same as trying to get a mortgage. We try to save, but the cost of a mortgage these days is just out of reach. I'm supporting Labour firstly because Keir's plans to build a lot more homes. It's just really needed throughout the whole country, not just for ourselves in London. And second, because of the help that is going to be offered for first-time buyers, it actually gives us hope that something can change. I strongly believe that if you can build a good home environment, you build better people, you build better citizens. They go outside, talk with each other and build a better community. And in turn, that leads to a better society. For the past 14 years, we've struggled with turmoil and uncertainty. Labour is the only party offering something different. They're actually giving us, the people, a voice, and they're listening. And we want change. We need change, and the only way to do that is to vote Labour. So thank you for listening to my story today. And now I'd like to introduce you to Nathaniel, who will give you his story about why we should join a Labour government.
My name is Nathaniel Dye, and I am a 38-year-old music teacher. I love my job and should be looking forward to inspiring tomorrow's rock stars for decades to come. But no. Cancer will kill me first, and I'll do well to live another 3 years, let alone 30. When I was first diagnosed in October 2022, it looked like I might be able to survive the bowel cancer that had only spread to my liver and be cancer-free after surgery. But when further spread was discovered in my lungs and lymph nodes in my neck, my prognosis worsened. And no matter how much grueling treatment I volunteered to put myself through, one thing is certain: this cancer will kill me, and it will grow back, and one day, too soon, end my life. There's nothing I can do about it now, but I can't stop wondering what might have been. Because I spent over 100 days waiting for cancer treatment when the government's target is 62, and there's a chance that if chemotherapy had come sooner, my cancer might not have spread. It's no one person's fault that scans and appointments took so long to come through, and I'm going to have to say so many wonderful people in the NHS have worked tirelessly to care for me as they do for everyone at their time of greatest need. But it's clear that the system has badly let me down. I represent the human cost of an NHS neglected over the past 14 years, and I invite anyone who stands by that dismal record in government to look me in the eye and say that it was good enough. We all deserve so much more. And I see Labour's policy to deliver 40,000 more appointments a week to clear the NHS backlog and cut waiting times as a real, tangible plan to give people the treatment they need before it's too late. Why should I bother to speak up now? After all, it is too late for me. But it's not too late to call for change, to support those who would improve the NHS so that others in my unfortunate position might live to grow old, even though I won't, because I won't. If I've learned anything from my sorry experience, it's that time is of the essence. And I know that Wes Streeting, a cancer survivor himself, will give everything to get our NHS back up to speed. Because a system better set up to work more quickly can mean the difference between life and death. This looks being my last general election, and I'm desperate to make it count. I'm proud to say that a Labour government is what I hope for now that my own hope is gone. Because with Kier Starmer's leadership, Labour is a party that would govern for all of us, because Labour will always act with the kindness and compassion that I look for so strongly in myself, because Labour is the party of hope for a brighter future I won't live to see, but you really could. I live in hope. Now, I would like to introduce Holly, who will tell us her story about being a first-time voter.
Hi, I'm Holly, an A-level student in the middle of my exams and a new member of the Labour Party. I recently turned 18, so this election was the first time I get to have my vote in the election, and I'm excited to vote for Labour on July 4th. Politics is something I think affects every aspect of our lives, and this election will determine our lives more than ever before. With the COVID pandemic, it feels as if young people have often been forgotten and left behind, especially when we lost years of schooling and social interaction, which arguably caused long-lasting effects, such as the A-level algorithm affecting what universities we could attend. At the same time, they had Downing Street parties, something that was hard for many to learn, but especially for a generation that sacrificed so much of our youth. For me and many young people, Keir Starmer's Labour Party symbolises a better future and greater equality and prosperity for all of us. For me particularly, Labour symbolises gender equality, something I firmly believe in, and the women at the heart of the Labour Party give me and the next generation something to look towards and represent the progress society is making. Wouldn't it be great to see Rachel Reeves as the first female Chancellor? The environmental pledges of Labour are also incredibly attractive for someone who will be living with the consequences of the government's now in years to come. Labour is the party for young people, giving us more expert teachers so we are prepared for life, work and the future, and giving us the potential to buy our own homes when we are older. For me, Labour symbolises a chance to finally have our say on our own futures, and this is why I am excited about casting my vote for Labour in the upcoming general election. Before we hear from the leader of the Labour Party, Kier Starmer, I'm going to hand over to a video showing what he's been up to in the last few weeks.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, leader of the Labour Party, Kier Starmer.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ange, for your introduction, for everything that you're doing. I think I'm taking your bus this afternoon. Thank you, Richard, for your words. Thank you, Daniel, for reminding us why we're doing what we're doing. Nathaniel, I've heard your story before, but every single time it gets to me, and I'm sure gets to every single person that listens to what you say. And I'm humbled by your determination to make sure that things are better for those in the next generation. And Holly, that was fantastic. That was really, Holly is 18 years old. Anybody who stood on a stage like this knows how hard it is for all of us to stand up here. That's the first time Holly's done anything like this in her life. Fantastic, Holly. And taken together, isn't this clear evidence of a changed Labour Party and clear evidence of the change we need for our country? A changed... Thank you very much. Yeah. We gave up on being a party of protest 5 years ago. We want to be a party of power. And that's not in the script, but that is part of the change. And Holly, can I also say at the start of this that this party respects and will never forget the contribution that your generation made during the pandemic. Thank you so much. And thank you all for coming to Manchester. Thank you all for the hard work that's gone into this campaign so far, into this project. 4.5 years of work, changing our party to put it back in the service of working people. And now, the next step, the most important step, changing Britain, rebuilding our country so that it too served the interests of working people. And what a place to launch our plan to do so. The home of the Cooperative Group, an organisation that has long believed, as we do, that the pursuit of social justice and economic growth must go hand in hand. A day where I am proud, in this place, in this city, to launch Labour's general election manifesto, a manifesto for wealth creation, a plan to change Britain. Because today we can turn the page. Today we can lay a new foundation of stability. And on that foundation we can start to rebuild Britain. A Britain renewed by an old argument that we serve working people as their ambition drives our country forward. Because there is so much potential in this country, so much possibility if we stand together as 4 nations and back the ambition people have for their family and their community. I see it everywhere I go. Potential held back. I spoke to Will, he's a fireman in Milton Keynes. He works really hard. What he wants, his dream, is to own his own home. A roof over his head that he can call his own. As well as a firefighter, he's got 2 other jobs, but he can't afford a mortgage. His dream will not be realised. It's the price he's paying. I went to Aldhay Hospital, not far from here. It is a brilliant children's hospital, absolutely brilliant. And the day I went in, I went to the ward where they were doing operations on 0 to 2-year-old children, heart operations. It's incredible to just see what they do, the courage of the individuals in there. Heart surgery, the brilliance of the NHS staff. I found that totally humbling, completely uplifting, until I found out that at Alderhay Hospital, the commonest cause for admissions for operations for 6 to 10-year-olds is children going there to have their teeth taken out because they're decaying. That is the price that they are paying. So just imagine if instead a Labour government gives Will and Daniel the affordable homes that they need. Imagine if instead a Labour government tackles the rot of tooth decay. Imagine what those nurses and doctors could do with a Labour government on their side. Now, don't get me wrong, these challenges don't disappear overnight if Labour wins. We don't have a magic wand. But what we do have, what this manifesto represents, is a credible long-term plan, a plan built on stable foundations with clear first steps. Tough spending rules that will keep taxes and inflation low. NHS waiting times cut, with 40,000 extra appointments every week. A border security command to smash the criminal smuggling gangs. Great British Energy to cut bills in your home for good. More police in your town, cracking down on antisocial behaviour. And 6,500 new teachers in your school, giving your children the start in life that they deserve. But also a plan that is much more than a list of policies. A plan for change, for growth, for giving our children their future back. A chance to refocus politics on the things that matter to your family. The era of sticking plaster politics, the chaos and division replaced by a government back in the service of you and your family. And make no mistake, that is the cause of this changed Labour Party. We have written that argument through every word of this manifesto, because it's urgent. Britain's lost its balance. It is too hard for working people to get on. Opportunity is not spread evenly enough. And too many communities are not just locked out of the wealth that we create, they're disregarded as sources of dynamism in the first place. Ignored by the toxic idea that economic growth is something the few hand down to the many. Today, we turn the page on that forever. Because that idea is part of the story of the past 14 years, part of everything they put you through. When they crashed the pound to give tax cuts to the richest 1%, when they decimated your public services because of a mess made by banks, when they failed to invest in clean British energy, so we were exposed when Putin invaded Ukraine. That idea was there. A Tory inability to face the future, rather than change, reform, and strengthen government so that it can intervene in partnership with business, to give you and your family stability in this insecure world. It doesn't matter how many new policies the Tories throw at the wall, hoping that some of them will stick. None of them face up to the reality of this future. But mark my words, this changed Labour Party will. We have a plan in this manifesto, a total change of direction, laser focused on our cause, stability, growth, investment and reform, a government back in the service of your family, ready to change Britain. We will restore the foundations of good government, national security, border security, economic security. We will make new choices to reform our economy and public services. Hard choices, choices ducked for years. These choices will be fully funded and fully costed. That is non-negotiable. You cannot play fast and loose with the public finances. We've lived through the damage that this does. That government we have now played fast and loose with the finances, and working people paid the price. Just after Liz Truss's mini-budget, I went to Wolverhampton a week or so afterwards, and I met there a couple. They had a 3-year-old child. They decided they want a second child. They'd chosen a new home that was big enough to accommodate their new family. They got a mortgage offer that they could afford. Liz Truss crashed the economy. Their mortgage offer went through the roof. They couldn't afford it. They pulled out. They couldn't move to their new home. They felt they were held back. But they also took the decision that they could no longer afford to have a second child. And they will live with that for the rest of their lives. That's the price that they're paying. So I make no apologies for being careful with working people's money, and no apologies for ruling out tax rises on working people. And this isn't just the election. Don't think it's just politics. This is an issue of conviction. I don't believe it's fair to raise taxes on working people when they're already paying this much, particularly in a cost of living crisis. So let me spell it out. We will not raise income tax. We will not raise national insurance. We will not raise VAT. That is a manifesto commitment. And another thing, because there may be some people here today who say, where's the surprise? Where's the rabbit out of the hat? To which I say, if you want politics as pantomime, I hear Clapton is nice this time of year. But seriously, we have to come to terms with this. Britain needs stability, not more chaos. I set out our long-term plan in this room 18 months ago. And that plan stands because it's the right plan. We did the work properly. Our responsibility to give a clear direction to businesses, communities, everyone invested in Britain's future. We took that seriously. So yes, those 5 national missions, higher growth, safer streets, cleaner energy, more opportunity, the NHS back on its feet, they remain at the core of this manifesto. But if they are to offer hope and clarity through these times, if they are to show, despite the hard road, the light of the certain destination, then we must keep to that road, no matter the short-term ebbs and flows of politics, even in a campaign. That's what mission-driven government means. A chance to stop us bobbing along until the next crisis blows us off course, and instead make sure we can keep going through the storm. Stability over chaos, long-term over short-term, an end to the desperate era of gestures and gimmicks, and a return to the serious business of rebuilding our country. And on that foundation of stability, we start to rebuild. A rebuilding that must begin, first and foremost, with new choices on economic growth. That is the mandate we seek from Britain at this election, a mandate for economic growth. Because the way we create wealth in this country is broken. It leaves far too many people feeling insecure. People who are working hard and doing the right thing. So we will reform it. and we will keep on reforming it until it delivers for them. Wealth creation is our #1 priority. Growth is our core business, the only route to improving the prosperity of our country and the living standards of working people. And that's why we made it our first national mission in government. But we must change our approach so it comes from every community, not just shared with every community. Redistribution can't be a one-word plan for our poorest towns and regions. No, we need to give them the tools they need, back their pride and potential, growth for every community, growth from every community. That is the path to national renewal. And now, some people say that how you grow the economy is not a central question, that it's not about how you create wealth, but how you tax it, how you spend it, how you slice the cake. That's all that matters. So let me be crystal clear. This manifesto is a total rejection of that argument. Because if you transform the nature of the jobs market, if you transform the infrastructure that supports investment in our economy, if you reform the planning regime, start to unlock the potential of billions upon billions of pounds worth of projects that are ready to go, held up by the blockers of aspiration, then clearly that does so much more for our long-term growth prospects. And the same is true of public services. If we grew the economy at anything like the rate of the last Labour government, we'd have tens of billions of pounds worth of investment for our public services every year. So if you take nothing else away from today, let it be this. This changed Labour Party has a plan for growth. We are pro-business and pro-worker, the party of wealth creation. We will reform the planning rules, a choice ignored for 14 years, and build the homes and infrastructure you need. We will level up your rights at work, a choice ignored for 14 years, and raise your wages and your security. We will create a new industrial strategy, a choice ignored for 14 years, and we will back it with a national wealth fund, invest in clean steel, new ports, gigafactories, and we will create 650,000 new jobs for communities like yours. Relight the fires of renewal across all 4 of our great nations. You can choose a different path. You have the power. You can choose to take back control from Westminster, more democracy for your community, new powers over transport, skills, employment, unlock the pride and potential in every community. That is a different choice you can make. You can cut your bills for good with a new energy company funded by a tax on the oil and gas giants, owned by the taxpayer, making money for the taxpayer, powering your home with clean British energy. That is a different choice you can make. And you can choose to get our NHS back on its feet, end the 8 a.m. scramble, back our NHS staff, get the best technology in their hands, slash waiting lists in your hospital, funded by taking on the non-doms and tax avoiders. That is a different choice you can make. And I'll tell you another choice you can make. You can choose to live in a country that believes in and backs its young people, the future of our country. I am fed up of politicians lecturing young people about their responsibility to our nation, when those politicians fail in their responsibility to the future. And after what young people did during the pandemic, what they gave up for people, let's be blunt, more at risk than them, that adds insult to injury. But more than that, it tears up the unwritten contract, the bonds of respect that hold these four great nations together, the values that make us who we are, the responsibilities we owe to each other, past, present, and future. My dad was a toolmaker. He worked in a factory. My mum was a nurse. We didn't have a lot when we were growing up. And like millions of working class children now, I grew up in a cost of living crisis. I know what it feels like to be embarrassed to bring your mates home because the carpet is threadbare and the window's cracked. I was actually responsible for that because I did put the football through it. But we didn't have the money to fix it. Or to be honest, the time and the energy. Economic insecurity drains you of that as well. But look, what always comforted my parents was the idea that in the end, Britain would give their children a fair chance. The old saying, the story we still tell our children, work hard and you can achieve anything. That meant something. My parents believed in that. But the question now, after 14 years, is do we? Do kids like those in Somerstown, a very poor part of my constituency, one of the poorest parts of Europe, do they look out of their window to the glittering success of London, 300 yards and another world away, and believe that success could belong to them? Do parents here in Manchester, or in Glasgow, Cardiff, Plymouth, Sunderland, Sussex, Stoke-on-Trent, do they believe, with the certainty that they deserve, that the future will be better for their children? Because in the Britain I want to leave to my children, they do. And we can build it. We can restore the dream of home ownership to 1.5 million families. We can create 3,000 new nurseries to give them the best start in life. We can roll out a new generation of technical excellence colleges, world-class vocational education, respected by all, grounding young aspiration in the soil of their community. We can guarantee for every young person a job placement or apprenticeship when they're out of work. We can invest in their mental health, their physical health, their dental health. We can reform the curriculum to prepare them for their world. We can create new youth hubs to give them something to do in their community. Raise their wages if they're at work. Give them the power of the vote. Tackle injustice with a new Race Equality Act. And with our mission on clean power, we can lead the way on climate. Finally show our responsibility to their future, a fairer, healthier, and more secure Britain at the service of working people, with growth from every community, a Britain ready to restore that promise, the bond that reaches through the generations and says, this country will be better for your children. That is the change on offer on July the 4th. That is our plan, and I invite you all to join our mission to stop the chaos, turn the page, and start to rebuild our country. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Helen. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you. I'm now going to take a number of questions from the media. And I'm starting with Chris from the BBC. Chris, I can't... There you are. Sorry, Chris, I've got you. Chris.
Thank you. Chris Mason, BBC News. Keir Starmer, talk to the voter right now who fears that you might only really say what you're going to do after any victory rather than before. We live in an era, don't we, of a scepticism, a cynicism about politics, perhaps an anti-politics mood. Address those voters, and you know that there are those who will fear that. Thank you.
Let me address them directly, because this manifesto is a manifesto for change. A total rejection, Chris, of the cynicism, of the idea that we can't do any better, that we can only hope to flatline, and that we cannot rebuild our country. It is a total rejection of that idea, based on 4 years of hard work, hundreds of engagements with those that will deliver for us, so we can build a future which genuinely will be better for our children. I understand the cynicism. I understand that after 14 years of this, for many people, the hope has been beaten out of them. But this is a manifesto for hope. It is a plan for growth, a plan for change, a plan for wealth creation. I will never accept the defeatism that says we can't do better than this. We can, we will, and with a Labour government, we'll get the opportunity to rebuild our country. Thank you, Chris. Beth.
Thank you. Beth Rigby, Sky News. Keir Starmer, this is a 132-page document. On the cover it says change, but there's not a single new policy in it you haven't already announced. There's no new retail offer for voters. Rishi Sunak threw the kitchen sink at his manifesto. You won't even take the safety catch off yours. Is this a Captain Caution manifesto designed to protect your poll lead? Thank you.
No. It is a serious plan for the future of our country. And every single policy in this document, policy after policy after policy, has been carefully thought through and tested to ensure that we can deliver it. I am not going to do what Rishi Sunak did, which is to offer things that he can't deliver because they're unfunded. People have had too much of that. They're fed up with that. This is a serious plan, carefully thought through. It's not about rabbits out the hat. It's not about pantomime. We've had that. I'm running as a candidate to be Prime Minister, not a candidate to run the circus. Thank you very much, Beth. Robert, ITV. Yeah. Robert.
Sir Keir Starmer, you say you want people to trust you, you want to restore stability to the UK. But it is surely the opposite of that to make the bogus claim that you can get growth up sufficiently by next year to prevent significant cuts to public services. How are you going to avoid a return to austerity?
We are not going to return to austerity. I ran a public service for 5 years, the Crown Prosecution Service. I lived through austerity. I'm never going to allow a Labour government to do that to our public services. Never. We have an immediate injection into our public services, the 40,000 appointments each and every week in our NHS to get our waiting list down. The teachers that we will put into our secondary school, 6,500. But, Robert, we have here a plan for growth, a plan for wealth creation, and steps we can take, a plan to deal with the planning regulations. That hasn't been done. It can be done. It can be done at speed. They're tough decisions. We'll do it. We've got a national wealth fund to invest in the future of the country. GB Energy, an energy company, to keep our bills down. an industrial strategy, a training programme for the skills we need of the future. All of these things haven't been done in the last 14 years. I do understand why people think they can't be done because of the damage that's been done over the last 14 years. They can and they will. We will turn around growth in this country and create the wealth we need for our country and our public services. Thank you, Robert, very much. Chris at GB News.
Chris Hope, GB News. Keir Starmer, you're so far ahead in the polls. Should we prepare for a one-party socialist state, as the Tories say? And is that a good thing? And also, just quickly, you want to reduce net migration. What on earth does that mean? Is that below 100,000 a year?
Look, Chris, let's reject the cynicism of the Tory campaign. All they want to do in a general election is to suppress the vote. I know that not a single vote has been cast in this election. Polls don't predict the future, and every single vote has to be earned. And we will earn it with our plan for growth, our plan for creation of wealth in the future. So that is our plan. And yes, I do want a mandate to be able to put this plan into action. I do want people to vote Labour to give us the mandate that we need. I want people to vote for a Labour candidate in their constituency so that Labour MP can sit on the government benches delivering this manifesto for them and their constituents. Yes, I want that mandate. Change is what we need, but if you want change, you have to vote for change, and that means voting Labour. Thank you very much, Chris. Natasha, LBC. Oh, Chris, I didn't do your second half of the question. I'll come back to it when I've dealt with Natasha.
Hi, Natasha Clark from LBC. It's 3 weeks today until polling day. The Tories are warning of a Labour supermajority. How confident are you feeling right now? Are you feeling like the campaign's going well? And are you worried that maybe a Labour win for you might just be off the back of people voting for you because they hate the Tories so much? Thank you.
No. We've had plenty of examples when people don't like the Tories and they're a real mess. But Labour hasn't been in a position to win. That's why we changed the Labour Party, precisely because we know that the Tories will mess it up, but we have to be in a position to win. We only win if we change the Labour Party. When people look away from the government and look at the alternative, they have to see a positive alternative, and that's what they see in the Labour Party. I don't, take anything for granted as we go to the final 3 weeks of this campaign. Yes, we are enjoying the campaign. I won't deny that. We've waited 4.5 years. We've worked for 4.5 years to get to this point, election year, the chance to do what we came into politics to do, which is to change the lives of millions of people for the better with a Labour government. We'll do that with our sleeves rolled up, a serious plan for the future, and take our argument to every single doorstep across the country and ask people to back the case for change, ask people to give us a mandate to change this country for them, their family, their community, and our country. Thank you very much. Chris, you did do a double question, but nonetheless, on immigration, we do need to have lower immigration. As you know, immigration is at pretty much the highest on record, bar the number just a few months ago. So this government has lost control of immigration. It's important to look at the reasons for that. And the main driving reason is because they haven't got any skills strategy. We haven't got the skills that we need in this country. And that's why not only is our plan here a plan for growth, it will also deal with immigration, because this government has gone to immigration as their growth lever. I want to go to skills, wealth creation, investing in businesses in this country. Thank you, Chris. That's not an invite to everybody to do 2 questions, by the way. But out of respect for Chris, I did it. Sophie, the Mirror.
Sophie Huskisson from the Daily Mirror. Sir Keir, your manifesto says you'll develop an ambitious strategy to reduce child poverty. Do you have a target for how many kids you want to lift out of poverty?
Well, we will have a strategy for dealing with poverty, just as the last Labour government did. And we took millions of children out of poverty, and we will do so again. That does require a strong plan to deal with those issues that bear down on poverty and children. That's housing, that's education, that's health, that's good jobs, and it's wealth creation. Because without the wealth creation that we need for our country, It's very difficult to do the support that we need in our country. And that's why I say we are the party of wealth creation. This is a plan for wealth creation. It is a plan for growth. That is the single driving mission of what I hope will be an incoming Labour government. Thank you, Sophie. Martina from The Sun. Martina.
Hello, Sir Keir. Martina Bett from The Sun. In order to clear the asylum backlog, you said that you will let small boat migrants currently here enter the asylum system. But what is the plan for new people who arrive here illegally? Because there is nothing about that in the manifesto. Will they be able to apply for a claim? If so, isn't that just an incentive for more people to come?
Well, look, those that are already here are already in the system. They're just not being processed. And that means the government has got a hopeless situation where tens of thousands of people are not being processed. So the one thing that can't happen is that they're removed to the country they came from, even if they've got no right to be here. That is the chaotic state of this government. They're not processing the claim. Even clear cases where people shouldn't be here, they can't be removed. We've got to fix that. We've got to fix the loss of control of our borders under this government. Nobody but nobody should be making that trip across the channel in small boats. And the way that we will do that is with our Border Security Command, which is set up specifically with new powers, a new command with new resources to smash the gangs that are running the vile trade of putting people, vulnerable people, in boats to go across the channel. Now, before I was in this job, I was the chief prosecutor for 5 years. I've worked with law enforcement across countries to smash terrorist gangs, sophisticated terrorist gangs, and I will never accept that the only gang that apparently we can't smash is the vile smuggling gangs that are running this trade. I'll never accept that. Thank you so much. Chris from The Times.
Chris Smythe from The Times. You've made it very clear that you're not putting up taxes on working people. You've left other taxes on the table, and you've also said there'll be no return to austerity. You're putting a lot of emphasis on growth, but you know, as you said, there is no magic wand. There is a chance that your growth plans don't happen as quickly as you want. So people want to know, what is your instinct in that situation if the sums don't add up? Is it to borrow more, is it to cut spending, or is it to put up taxes?
Chris, this manifesto is a total rejection of that defeatist approach, that the only levers are tax and spend. It's a total rejection of that. It's a plan for growth. I accept there's no magic wand. I accept that you don't get growth without a plan. That's what all the forecasts are based on, that things won't change, can't change, will flatline. That's why we're having this discussion about tax and spend. I'd reject that. That's why this is a plan for growth, a carefully thought through plan for growth. Hundreds and hundreds of conversation engagements with businesses, with communities, with local representatives and leaders about the change that we can bring about. And some of it is obvious stuff, it's common sense stuff. Planning holds up infrastructure all of the time. Years and years are lost in pretty well every infrastructure project. We can't get things done. We can't get things moving. We can't build things, whether that's big projects or the houses that we need. We don't have an industrial strategy that actually makes sure we've got the skills and the initiatives in the places that we need them. We haven't got a national wealth fund at the moment, which invests in the future of our country and gets the private sector to invest with it. All of these things will make a material difference, and I have absolute confidence in the plan for growth that we're putting before the country. And I will not accept the defeatism that says all that we can hope for in this country is to flatline. That is the absolute opposite of the hope that we inject through this manifesto. Thank you, Chris, very much. Ben, Telegraph.
Thank you, Ben Riley-Smith, The Telegraph. Keir Starmer, your rhetoric suggests you want taxes coming down, but this manifesto explicitly has taxes going up, I think in the costings pages by about 7 to 8 billion. So can you just be crystal clear, you're going into the election with a platform of tax rises?
The tax rises we've set out in the manifesto were there's no surprises, Ben, this morning, as you will see. You'll have gone through the document quickly. You'll go through it, no doubt, at length later on. There are no taxes, no tax rise that we haven't already announced. Yes, we want to bear down properly on the non-dom tax status and make sure that super rich pay their fair share in this country. Yes, we want the oil and gas companies to pay fair tax on the massive profits that they're making. Yes, We want to make sure that private equity loopholes aren't there, again, for wealthy. And yes, we've taken the tough decision in relation to VAT. So we will take all of those measures. But what you won't see in this manifesto is any plan that requires tax rises over and above those that we have already set out. Because we've been very, very clear, particularly in relation to working people, no increase in income tax, no increase in national insurance, and no increase in VAT. Absolutely clearly set out in this manifesto. Thank you, Ben. Jason from the Daily Mail.
Thanks, Sir Keir. You've said that taxes are too high. Just to follow on Ben's question, your manifesto, I think, is going to put them up about £8 billion. The Tories say they're going to cut them by 17 billion. Are you happy fighting the election on that tax divide? And can I just pick up one from Beth's interview with you last night, which I don't think you ever quite got round to answering. You're among friends here. Did you really think Jeremy Corbyn was going to be a great PM?
Well, look, on the tax question, you can see what the Conservatives are doing. Every day they are desperately putting a new policy, a new gimmick on the table, which is unfunded. Now, if there's one lesson from Liz Truss and what happened to the economy, it's if you make unfunded tax cuts, then it damages the economy and working people pay the price. And I was in Stafford just a few weeks ago during this campaign, in the kitchen of a woman who is a paramedic and her wife, who works in a jewellery shop. They bought their house 5 years ago. They were on a fixed-rate mortgage. They've got 2 kids. That has come to an end after 5 years. They've hunted around, but the best mortgage they can get is one that's hundreds of pounds more, and they can't afford it, and they're going to have to move. That is the price you pay for unfunded tax cuts. And Rishi Sunak, if there's one thing that he was supposed to do, it was to provide the stability after Liz Truss, and here he is repeating it. And it'll be working people who pay the price for that. And in relation to Jeremy Corbyn in the last election, I didn't think we would win the last election. I didn't think that we were in a state to win it. That is reinforced by the work that we have now done. We were rejected by the country, and first decision I took was if you get rejected that badly by the country, you don't look at the voter and say, what on earth were you doing? You look at your party and you change it. And I've led this party through that change. And Jeremy Corbyn is not just not a Labour candidate, he's expelled from this party. That is how much change we have brought around. Kitty at the Eye.
Thank you, Kitty Donaldson from the Eye newspaper. You're giving the impression of a man in a hurry. Tony Blair made the Bank of England independent in the first week of his landslide. What would Prime Minister Keir Starmer do in the first week of a Labour government? And how long will you give voters before they judge you on your ability to make changes?
The first thing I'd do is return politics to service. To serve this country. I came into politics to serve. I had a career in the law before this. My wife rather thinks I should have stayed with it. But I changed. But I changed because I wanted to serve my country. And I think politics in the last 10 to 14 years has become too much about self-entitlement and not enough about service. So the mindset change, if we are able to come into government, on day one, the most important thing will be service, country first, party second. Every decision will be dictated by that. Is it country first, service of the country? And I'll be judged on that service, as I have been in the past. I worked with the police service of Northern Ireland, changing that so that it had the confidence of both communities with others. I worked at the Crown Prosecution Service, a service prosecuting every criminal case in England and Wales to protect the public. And I've changed the Labour Party into a party that, again, is once again in the service of working people. And what we are now seeking is the opportunity to change our country, to put it back in the service of working people. That will be the big change from day one, and everything else hangs off that. Country first, party second. Thank you, Kitty, very much. Pippa from The Guardian. Pippa.
Pippa Crerar from The Guardian. We all know that voters' trust and confidence in British politics has never been lower. There's been numerous political scandals over the years that have played a big role in that. If you win the election, will you set up your new Ethics and Integrity Commission within the first 100 days? And are you watering down your ban on ex-ministers lobbying the government from 5 years? Rishi Sunak has struggled to lead a government of integrity, professionalism and accountability at every level. But can you do any better?
Yes, and I'm determined that we will do better because I've been in public service all my life. I've been held to high standards all my life. I've led from the front all of my life. And yes, we will get on with changing the codes and the ethics codes and the guidance that is in place straight away in government. But I know that nobody will believe it's changed until they see the action that follows. You do need strong codes, you do need good commissioners, but you need to take action. And you need to take action when people breach those codes. And that's what we will do. Just as I knew when we were changing the Labour Party, I said on day one I would rip out anti-Semitism by the roots. I knew I'd be judged not by what I said on day one, but what I did on day 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. And on and on and on. And so it will be the same in government. We are going to turn this around to put politics back in the service of working people. We'll be judged by the actions that we take as well as the promises that we make. Thank you, Pippa, very, very much. Jim from the FT. Jim.
Jim Pickard, Financial Times. The private equity industry has been lobbying very hard for you to dilute the removal of the carried interest loophole that industry enjoys. It seems pretty clear from the documents in the manifesto that you're still hoping to raise over £500 million from doing that. Is it your guarantee that the amount they pay in tax will go up from 28p in the pound to 45%, or is there still some wriggle room in that policy? Thank you.
Jim, we are absolutely determined to change the rules, to close this loophole, and the money that is set out in the schedule at the back of the manifesto tells you how much yield there will be from that. So that's the plan, that's how we'll carry it out. And what you will see, and thank you for drawing attention to it, for everybody who's got the document, is in the last few pages, about page 190, Rachel is demonstrating the page that says every policy is fully costed and fully funded. She's got it open. She wrote every word of it. And that is important because you can only build the wealth that we need in this country on the foundation of stability. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you for your questions. Thank you, all of you. Onward we go to change. Thank you. Thank you.